Hey, before the video gets started, if you don't like intros or lore segments, there are chapters down below so you can skip right to the review so you don't have to click off and just immediately dislike this video because I'm not talking about the figure right away. What is up, guys? Welcome to another video. Another video means another dopamine hike said that buys something that feels something, and today we are taking a look at a Hasbro property. I am breaking the NECA chain and we are going to be reviewing something else because despite me enjoying making these NECA videos and a bunch of you enjoying the NECA videos, I do have viewers who like to watch some of the other stuff I put out, and today we're going to be catering towards the Star Wars demographic of things. So hopefully y'all who are here for the Star Wars stuff enjoy this video. And the product in question that we are reviewing is the Star Wars The Black Series Infinities Vader. Now, some of y'all might not know who this is because he's from a comic series back in 2004. So if you don't even like dabble in the comics, let alone, you know, all the new ones that have been coming out, you probably never heard of the Infinity series, which is a very interesting comic series that was put out. It's basically more of a what if, or like an alternate telling of the original trilogy. Basically, little things are changed and it changes the events of the story. And now you may be asking yourself, how do we get here? How do we get to Vader in white armor? So to give you a very short and simple answer, at the scene in Return of the Jedi where Luke confronts Palpatine and his father, you know, take that scene. Now Princess Leia is there alongside with Luke, and Luke is fighting Vader, and there is confrontation, and right then and there, during that entire confrontation, Vader finds out that Luke and Leia are his children rather than finding out much sooner like he does in the original movies. So essentially, Vader has that conflicted, confrontation with himself on top of, fighting his children now. And he eventually realizes what he is doing is wrong, and he turns to the light side. And what ends up happening, the Death Star is about to explode. Palpatine gets out of there because now it's Luke, Leia, and Vader about to face him. So he leaves and disappears into the unknown regions of the galaxy. Luke, Leia, and Vader leave the Death Star, and they regroup with the rebellion. And essentially, Vader's like, I'll join the rebellion, and I'll help you hunt down Palpatine because he is very much alive and still very much a threat. And now he sports his armor in white to show that he is good and that he is now Anakin Skywalker and no longer Darth Vader. And please don't go down in the comment section and murder me, please. I just gave you the Spark Notes version of the story. There's a lot more details in between that I didn't mention, but that's just the gist of how we got to Vader in white armor. And kind of a hot take, if you will, I actually really like this ending. I think this would be a much better ending than what we got in Return of the Jedi. Don't get me wrong, I think Return of the Jedi is a phenomenal movie. I love it, but I feel like this would have been so much better than what we got with the sequel trilogy. The sequel trilogy has its moments, but it is overall not a really good trilogy, and I feel like if they just kept Vader alive and turned him into Anakin and they just did this, I feel like it would have been so much better. But that's my hot take. Please don't kill me. So here we are taking a look at the box with some awesome artwork. This is actually the cover of the comic where Vader gets his white armor, so I thought that was a very cool decision. And then we have a picture of him in black and white, the name Infinities Darth Vader, kind of everything that's included, with another picture of Vader, and then some pictures from the comic, the fight between Vader and Luke specifically. And then opening it up, we get, the figure, the panel or the photo of Vader in his white armor, a brief description of what that's all about. And so far, just based off of first impressions and visuals, this is looking like a promising figure. Granted, it's just a repaint, but with all that said, let's get into it. And then starting off with articulation in the head region of the figure, you can rotate his head 360 degrees, and then you can have him tilt his head back and forth or bop his head back and forth, however you want to put it, or however it feels best to you to describe that motion. But he can move his head back and forth, and then he can kind of tilt his head side to side, not a crazy amount, but that movement is there. And then taking a look at his arm articulation, you can't really flap up his arm a whole bunch. His shoulder pad kind of clashes with his armor on his chest, but you can open it from the side a decent amount, so there's that at least. And of course you can rotate his arm 360 degrees. If you couldn't, that would be insane. And then getting to the elbow articulation, you can bring his forearm up a decent amount. He's not going to be able to tap his shoulders, but the range of motion there is good. And then going to the hands, you can rotate them 360 degrees and bend the wrists however you want. That's pretty much the staple principle for any action figure. So overall, alright arm articulation. Then taking a look at his torso articulation, he cannot rotate his torso 360 degrees. The cloth that is on his torso restricts him from doing that, so that is something that bums me out. And then you can kind of have him lean back and forth. Not really a crunch because he's not really bending all the way up or down. It's just kind of a tilt at best. So not gonna lie, kind of bummed out about Vader's torso articulation. And then finally looking at the articulation in the leg region, you can't bring his legs up all the way. So if you want him to sit in a chair, you can have him do that. And then if you want him to do some splits, you can about get 80% of a split out of this figure. Whether that's a make or break for you is completely up to you. And then after that, going to the knee articulation, you're not gonna get a butt kick out of him, unfortunately. It's kind of sad because we've seen stormtroopers who can almost do a complete butt kick, and then our boy, the monster himself, Darth Vader, can't even really do one. And then we can get a 360 rotation out of his leg, and it is kind of a hassle, I will not lie. And then you can rotate his thigh as well, which I think is a pretty neat feature. I don't think I've seen any Black Series figure do this yet. I don't know. Granted, all I collect are troopers. And then looking at the feet, you can have them go up and down and rotate them 360 degrees. So pretty okay leg articulation on this boy. So unfortunately for my final verdict on Vader's articulation, it's pretty okay at best. And of course for accessories, the only thing included is his lightsaber. Now I think they did a good job with it. It looks like his lightsaber. There's the silvers where the silver's supposed to be and the black where the black is supposed to be. So it's just a simple but good execution of his lightsaber. And one real big obvious feature that is included with this lightsaber is that the blade can be attached and detached. So if you want them displayed with it turned off, you can have that. Or if you want the lightsaber in his hand ignited, you can also do that. So I think that's a really cool thing that Hasbro does. And one really cool feature is the little loop that is on his lightsaber. You can attach to a hook on his belt, so if you want it displayed on his side, you can have that as well, and I just really think that's neat. Now with all that covered, let's move things over to size comparisons to put this man in scale. First off, we have NECA's Aliens Xenomorph. Then we have NECA's Stalker Predator, who I just did a review on, so if you want to check that out after this video, you're more than welcome to. Then we have Jazzwares Halo, the Spartan Collection Spartan Venator, Jazzwares World of Halo, Halo Infinite Master Chief, and finally we have McFarlane's The Doom Slayer. And here we are at the turntable segment of the video, pretty much where I go over what I like, dislike, just my general thoughts on the figure. And this also allows you guys to, agree, disagree with what I'm saying, and go down into the comment section and create a discussion, because I like talking about this stuff, and I will most likely respond to your comments, because like I said, I like talking about this stuff. So, what do I dislike about this figure, just to get that sour stuff out of the way? And just to throw you off for just a second, I'm going to tell you what I'm not going to say I dislike.
Gotcha, bitch!
And basically, what I'm not going to dislike about this figure is how it's a quick re-release, repaint, cash grab kind of figure. Because I know there's some people out there who saw this figure and they're like, oh, Hasbro's just doing this to get a quick buck because, literally it's just a repaint. Yes, it's a repaint. What else did you want them to do to this figure? In the comic, it's just Vader in white armor. There's nothing that Hasbro gave us a lightsaber. In the comic, he's not even shown with it. And I mean, yeah, Darth Vader figure has to come with a lightsaber, but it's just, to the people that I've seen complain how this is a quick cash grab, please tell me, what did you want them to do to this figure? What did you want them to add to this figure so it's different and special besides him being a different color? Because there's nothing else you can honestly do, because we don't see enough of this new Vader to add anything new to the figure itself. Now with that quick rant out of the way, the one thing I do dislike about this figure is his articulation. It feels fairly limited throughout his entire body. There's parts where the movement feels good, like for example, looking at the arm, I think that the elbow articulation is really good, and that the hand articulation, I mean, if they mess up the hand articulation, I don't know what the fuck's going on anymore, but the hand articulation feels fine. But with the whole flapping up his arm, how he could barely do it, that's something that bums me out. Or like looking at the head, I'm glad he can rotate his head 360 degrees and he can bring his head up and down, but tilting his head side to side, he can't really do that, you know, all too well. Or with the legs, you know, he can do a pretty decent split for the most part, and he can bring his legs up all the way, but he can't really do a butt kick. There's just like these things where like the articulation is good in some spots and it's really iffy in others, and in the places where it is iffy, it kind of really kills me and just kind of makes me think that this is more of a display figure than a play figure. But granted, most people who are buying these comic series, you know, figures are also buying these figures to display them rather than to play with them. So getting into what I do like about this figure and starting off with the visuals, I think that this figure looks really good. Like, I know it's just a repaint, but it's just cool to see this version of Vader in 6-inch scale now. And I think that it's really cool that Hasbro went the extra step and actually added the colors to the switches and buttons and gadgets on his belt, because in the comic it's just all plain white. There's not really any color variation in his suit, so I think that's also a little cool addition to this figure. But after that, I just like how they gave him a lightsaber, despite in the comics he isn't shown with one. We don't know that if he was supposed to have a blue or a green one or anything, so they just gave us his normal red one, so I thought that was cool at least. And after that, yeah, that's really I can think about this figure. I wish the articulation was better, but it's not. It's good in some spots, not good in others. And yeah, to give you the most dumbed down version of how I feel about this figure, the feel of the figure, bad. The look of the figure, good, despite it being a very simple repainting of the figure. I just think it was cool that Hasbro decided for their next comic series figure to be Infinities Vader. It's a comic series that I actually have a nostalgia, you know, bias towards, because it was one of the first comic series I got into, you know, being a fan of Star Wars for such a long time. So yeah, with all that said, feel bad, look good. And here we are at the outro segment of the video. If you did like this video, a like and subscription would be awesome. You don't have to comment because that's a lot of effort, so I get it. But if you do want to talk about this figure, go down and disagree, agree, just create a discussion. You're more than welcome to as well. I like talking about this stuff, so I will most likely respond to your comments. And don't worry about the bell, because we both know that shit is broken. And if you do want to see more content like this, there's plenty of it up on the channel. I review Halo stuff, obviously Star Wars stuff, and I review some NECA stuff as well. So with all that said, go check all that shit out. You know, support me any way you want to, and I'll see you all in another video. Have a good day and stay hydrated, because if you don't, I will kill you.